Alright, this next fly we're going to tie is my version of a fly called the Frenchie. Basically a little small pheasant tail pattern. This is going to be tied on a jig hook. You can notice here the angle of the eye. It's about a 60-degree angle. And we're using a small slotted tungsten bead. I like to use a bright color, pink or an orange. Just kind of sets the fly apart, easier to see in the water. Sometimes you'll see these tied with a little bright dubbing here, or some fluorescent floss in place of the bright bead. So let's get started on this. So we got a size 16 jig hook with that slotted bead, which allows it to fall into that small little gap behind the eye there. So we're just gonna start with a basic size 8 thread. We're gonna build up a little tapered kind of body here. So just gonna go back and forth a couple times. Make sure that bead falls into that slot. So once we get a nice taper, we can remove the excess. Just take that thread right down, just about the top of the bend there. Now we're just going to use some pheasant tail fibers. 3 or 4 will work for the tail. Doesn't need to be too bulky. So we just got our tips there, just even those up. Just gonna put those on my side of the hook, slight tension with the thread. What I like to do, I get about 2 wraps, I just let the bobbin kind of hold it, and I can make sure they're right on top, and I can just pull them to length. If one of them's a little long, it's no big deal, you can just even them up. Now again, just slight pressure downward on that bobbin holds them in place. What I like to do adds a little more bulk to the body, is I just kind of wrap it forward and cover that up, keeping that right on the top, and then bring that right behind the bead, and now you can remove the excess. Now for ribbing, simple, little copper or gold wire, just match the size to the size of the hook. I like to tie this in right behind the bead rather than near the tail. It just makes it more secure and kind of again builds up the body more evenly, so I don't have that lump right by the tail fibers. And again, I like to cover that a couple times to make sure it's nice and secure, and then you can continue to kind of build that little taper to the body of the fly. Alright, so now we're down here in front of the tails. Again, I'm just going to take, you can actually use the excess fibers that you used for the tail. If you moisten them a little bit, they'll kind of stick together. Just offer that soft wrap to secure the tips. Bring that just down to those tail fibers, but make sure you don't upset those, so you can just stay a little 1 wrap shy of those. Bring that up behind the eye. Now it's just a matter of grasping these and winding them forward. You can kind of overlap the previous wrap a little bit, but you'll notice because the pheasant tail fiber is tapered itself, it'll actually taper up the body pretty nice. Just a couple wraps behind the bead. Secure that, remove the excess. Now you just take your wire, you can counter rib it or rib it the same way. Doesn't really matter, I don't think. Just kind of personal preference. Yeah, there's about 4 wraps, and I like to go twice behind the bead. Just add a little bit of security to that wire. Once that's secured, just take some old scissors, come in here, trim that off. Now I like to use a new dubbing we have. It's a peacock dubbing, but it's a fine cut, so it dubs real easily. Don't need a whole lot here, just a little pinch. This is the UV black. Got some nice little UV fibers in it. Just spin that loosely onto the thread. Don't need a whole lot again. And we're just going to wrap that right there behind the bead. fill in that little gap. Whip finish this. Another pretty quick fly. You can knock out a dozen of these in no time. Just a little whip finish. Remove that excess thread. And get rid of some long fibers here if you want. But that's basically it. It's kind of the jig version of the Frenchie with that nice bright bead. Jig hook will ride actually upside down in the water. So you can tie a variation of these with different colored beads and different colored dubbing and fill up the box and catch some fish. Thanks.